Hi friends, as you can see by the title, today we're seeing Don't Worry Darling. I mean, the thing is, when I got invited, so tonight I'm going to the premiere here in Perth, and when I got invited to this weeks back, maybe even a month ago, I had all these intentions of recapping drama and all these things that were going on in the movie, but now I feel like everyone's just like, it's so saturated and everyone knows the story. I mean, I don't think anyone's living under a rock for this one, but Don't Worry Darling is Olivia Wilde's new feature. It stars Harry Styles, Florence Pugh, and Chris Pine, and it had a number of controversies with the casting, with conflicts, with spitting. The publicity for this film has just been non-stop, very strange. Some people even think that they're faking the whole thing just to get this movie's name in everyone's mouth. And I mean, it is working, but there's no way, because Olivia Wilde, who is the director, is not coming off very well in the situation, but it depends who you ask. And yeah, anyway, everyone was very enthralled by the drama behind this movie, but today we're actually going to find out if the movie's any good. One thing I will say is they've been blasting this trailer non-stop for ages, and it's all over social media, and I feel like I've seen it too much. It gives me kind of like Stepford Wives vibes, and I just think that they've shown too much repeatedly all over social media. This is a psychological drama mystery thriller, which is why we're talking about it today. It's set in the 1950s around a housewife living with her husband in a utopian experimental community when she begins to worry that this glamorous life may be holding disturbing secrets. Even though the trailer's been playing, I always scroll past it because I want to go in as blind as possible. But yes, I'm getting very Stepford Wives-esque kind of feels, and I've heard that Harry Styles, who plays the husband, his dialogue is pretty intense at points, so it should be really interesting to see him in this role. I'm really interested to see him acting. I know he has been in other films, but I haven't seen him before, so I'm interested to see that because that was one of many scrutinies of this film already. Florence Pugh, huge fan. I know everyone who watches this is probably a huge fan of her, so I know she'll do fantastic. And once again, I kind of feel like it's a little bit Midsummer with her character in this one. I mean, not that it's the same, but it's just she's put in a situation where everything will slowly unravel into the true disturbing nature of a community. So, you know, it's kind of the same in that regard. But you know what? I'm excited. I'm going in with like mild expectations. I've heard really good things. They had a standing ovation for like 8 minutes at the Venice Film Festival, which is kind of confusing because every film there got a standing ovation. But it's also got some bad reviews already, and I don't know if that's based off the controversy. Today we're going to talk purely, besides all that, we're going to talk purely about the film, as a watcher. I'm going to take you along to this premiere. It's going to be completely spoiler free, so you know whether it's worth your money, whether it's worth going and checking this one out in cinemas or waiting to see it when it's streaming. But let's not wait any longer. Let's go see Don't Worry Darling. Hi friends. That wasn't what I expected at all. Here's my headline. Don't Worry Darling is not what you expected, but Olivia Wilde loves to keep the audience on the edge of their seat to her detriment. Not that it's bad. I feel like that was really harsh, actually. The film was not what I expected at all, and in a good way, in a very good way, because I love that. I love that kind of thing. And it is not really... I mean, you kind of say things are Stepford Wivey when they have that same kind of 50s aesthetic, but it really took me by surprise in a good way. So I like, hats off to Olivia Wilde for that. But I do have a lot of thoughts about it. I always go into these films thinking, far out, will I have enough to talk about? Will the film just be straightforward and I won't have anything to kind of put out there or add to any kind of conversation? Not that I've really seen anyone's responses so far. The film was just released, and I believe it was only like really premiered to a general wide screening just yesterday. I haven't read a lot about it, but I can tell you for a fact it is nowhere near as bad as people have been saying, and I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So the film is... it's very different. Like the start, I thought it was going to be like a slow descent into like this crazy, disturbing kind of cult village they lived in. But no, the film actually starts with them already living in this, I want to say compound, but that's definitely not the right wording. The film is within this kind of village, this community, this utopia where Florence Pugh lives as Alice among other housewives, and they all live a very straightforward life together. Just in their routine, when one day she discovers some cracks, as we kind of said in the start, some cracks in it, but she's already in this world. And it starts off in a very interesting way because it doesn't give you much to go off the characters are set for their relationship. They're very, I mean, if anyone knows anything about what was meant to be in the trailer, the film is very sexual, and it, starts off with them being a very happy, like young couple, and very affectionate towards each other. And it shows them, getting drunk and like riding around. They're having like the time of their lives, and it's not this strict structure in the Stepford Wife kind of way. It doesn't fit into the mold where I thought it would start. It's not until she starts questioning things that the movie takes a slight turn. But the interesting thing about the film is it is way more horrific than I ever could have imagined. I thought this would be drama, thriller, and although, of course, it is that, there's definitely elements of horror within this movie. I would say that this film has the same percentage of horror as a lot of films that people quite happily accept as horror. And I did read the other day that someone's definition of horror would be a film that is purposely made to scare you. And this film does have those moments. Like, there are a lot of really interesting mixed media kind of stylization moments in this film that are actually meant to scare you, make you feel claustrophobic, and really throw you out of whack. It's a very psychological film, and I wasn't expecting it to be, I don't know, that scary. I don't think it's scary, but that chilling and that uncomfortable. Let's talk stylization before we get into the acting, because I do have a lot to say about that. Obviously, set in the 50s, the film looks beautiful, it's bright, it's colorful, everyone looks fantastic. The costumes, the art design, it's beautiful. But the camera work is something that's really interesting, because when cracks start to show, it's really interesting the way they present that, because not only do they show that physically, they also show it through the lens of the camera and the different techniques to show people's minds cracking in the same way. It's almost like these experimental moments and then this mixed media put into the film. So there's a lot of cuts and splices of something, seeping in. And I thought that was really interesting, the way they worked that into the film. But the main stylization piece I really liked, which I guess is no surprise if you watch my channel regularly, is the music. The film, because it's more about this loving relationship and trying to let you into loving relationship by showing you not so much dialogue pieces. It's really starts off with a montage of the people together and them having fun and how amazing this lifestyle is. The film has just a lot of montages that, it's a song leading into a song, leading into another song of their lives. And the film is just a bunch of montages. And it really, the way that the film, in the structure-wise, moves throughout time, it utilizes that a lot. But then I also love they have an actual score in this film that is chilling. It's beautiful,
really well done, really strange kind of chanting, and it's quite thrilling. So I really enjoyed that. Before we get into the characters, let's talk about structure. This is where I felt like the downfall, oh no, I wouldn't say downfall, that's really harsh. This is where I had, I don't want to say issues, but where I just thought that the film was lacking or maybe spent too much time. So as I said, the film starts off with a bunch of montages for you to get into the character building, but the tempos are unusual, and usually I'm into that, but I felt like they stretched out the middle portion. But because it is kind of like, I would say, stay with me, a drama, thriller, horror, mystery, you're trying to figure out what's actually going on and why these cracks are there. And I felt like Olivia Wilde as the director, she really kept you on your toes for so long and didn't give you any breadcrumbs. And I felt like, yeah, at that point you really want to know and you're into the curiosity, but then another 10 minutes pass and you're still going through the same motions, and another 10 minutes pass and you're still wondering, and another 10 minutes pass, and it's all leading up to something. And then because it spent so long leading up somewhere, it only had a short time to kind of undo all of that and explain itself. And although it does explain itself fully, maybe there's one portion a little bit left out, but I felt like I was ready for the reveal already, and because we didn't get much set up for the character, I just really felt like that part dragged on in the middle. And yeah, I just felt myself not getting bored by it. I could watch Florence Pugh freak out for, 6 hours non-stop. That is not a problem. But it just felt like she was getting so much pleasure, or I guess the scriptwriter was getting so much pleasure in the fact the audience might be confused by the story, as to so much as making it a clever confusion, if that makes sense. But that's when we come into the acting. So Olivia Wilde is in this film. I knew she was she had a part in the film. I did not realize she was like the supporting actress. And I personally, whatever about Olivia Wilde, but she is a beautiful character. She's a beautiful person, physically, and she really fit this role. And it makes me almost think, even though I've heard that Florence Pugh was meant to have her kind of supporting role beforehand, I really feel like Olivia Wilde used this script to her advantage to play a role that really fit. She just fit to a T, and she was really well casted. She casted herself in the film, and it was really interesting, and I think she did really well at it. I have a little tiny part of me that thinks that she wanted to do this film just so she could play this role, because she fits it so well that it's strange. So I guess that's a compliment. Florence Pugh, she is fantastic, and she does this so well, but the issue is, here we go, she is paired with Harry Styles. Florence Pugh is British. Harry Styles is British, but yet only one of them got to keep their British accent. I'll let you guess who. I feel like, honestly, Harry Styles had a really, I don't want to say easy job, because no job is easy, especially in this industry, but he was very overshadowed by Florence Pugh. But because she was the star of the film, these moments, or I guess 90% of the film and the scenes, allowed him to be a background character quite easily. And when he had to step up to the plate, her energy just does not match his. There is no way I felt almost bad for him, because having someone like Florence Pugh, who has every range, to have an outburst to him, and him to try and absorb that in any way as an actor, it's really hard. And I guess I feel kind of bad for him, because she was acting circles around him, to be completely honest. I do feel bad for poor old Harry. Overall, I think that this film is way more sinister than you first believe, and it is just completely different to what I thought it was going to be, in a good way. I think that people are getting caught up too much in the drama, which trust me, I did too. Spitgate, all about it. But I do think that this film has something to offer, and I do think that horror and thriller fans will enjoy it. I don't think it's the best film ever, and I really did like Olivia Wilde's first film, Booksmart. I thought that film was absolutely fantastic. I think I gave it a 4.5 or a 4 out of 5. This film is interesting, but it's a completely different, I can't tell you how different it is to Booksmart. Obviously not the same genre, but just completely tone, completely different stylization, and it just feels so strange for her to choose, because this film is like a very strange mix of this dystopian, dreadful anxiousness. And yeah, I thought it was quite enjoyable to see in the cinema. But the main reason I actually do recommend you seeing this film in the cinema, even though I think it's a good film, not a great film, is because the film has many twists, and I would hate for them to be spoiled for you. So I do recommend seeing this one in the cinema. If you can hold off and you don't think that people are going to spoil it for you, definitely check it out when it comes out to streaming. I do think this film is definitely worth a watch. Not the best, but definitely not the worst. And with all of the controversies, I think it still holds up really well. And also Chris Pine was pretty great in it. I'm going to give this film a personal score of 7 out of 10 for the reasons I've stated. Florence Pugh is amazing though. If you're a fan of her, definitely see this one at the cinemas. It's worth it. Scare, it does have horror aspects. I'm going to stand behind that. But it is more of a thriller drama. I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 10 for scare. For originality, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I am, because it has been done, but not enough. You know, it's like mid-range, but a little bit up. And I do recommend checking out your local cinemas. If you have seen the film, let me know below. And if you're going to put any spoilers, just put, you know, spoiler alert at the start of your comment. I would love to read them. And let me know what you thought about Harry Styles' performance. And yeah, let me know what you thought. I'm really excited to see your comments on this one. And it was a very pleasant surprise, because sometimes I go into these films not knowing how much thriller and fun and spooky kind of aspects. Not that it's like spooky. There is a little bit of a spooky thing, but I digress. It's just really exciting, and I'm glad I was part of it. So thank you so much for giving me that opportunity, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.